Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Side by Side podcast presented by Side Stage Tour. Today we've got our spouses here. Woo! I know we're stuck, and the reason that is because today's topic is maintaining connection. One of the biggest ones we have to deal with, and there is no better way to talk about this than with the people that we are trying to maintain connection with. Yes. So we have Kelly and Nick, and I have Jordan over here, and we're just going to dive in so we can just get these questions going. And whoever wants to answer can answer. We can both answer. If you don't have an answer, that's totally fine. But we're just going to get into the deep cut questions. So let's talk about the realities of distance and disconnection, because that is real. That is what we deal with on the daily when you guys are touring. So a question to start: what is the hardest thing about being apart that nobody talks about?
What you got, honey?
Well, one of the hardest things that nobody talks about is the routine. Like our routines, like how they are together and what they look like whenever we're apart. Because to be honest, my routine gets real strict when Nick's away. Whenever he's here, we're enjoying each other, we're doing whatever we want, but like whenever he's gone, like I get real strict. I'm up at like 6 with no alarms, no problems. But when he's here, I'm up at 8. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do anything. Did you know this?
I mean, I get a sense for it.
Because I have to stay sane, to stay like regulated. It's like automatic. My body is like, all right, Nick's gone. Do what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for you if you don't.
So do you wake up early when he's gone because like you feel guilty for waking up at 8 and relaxing when he's back?
No, it just happens. Like my body's like, Nick's not here. I mean, you could sit here, but there's nobody else here, so you might as well get up.
That's amazing, because I think I would just sleep in more. I think I do sleep in more.
Yeah, you would think it'd be the opposite.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens.
Interesting.
It's because you want to lay in bed and be cozy all morning.
Whenever you're there, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When I'm not here, it ain't nobody to be all hugged up with.
Yeah.
Well, I know that this question was like, what's the hardest thing about being apart that no one talks about? But I think one of the hardest things about coming back together that no one talks about is how I treat it mentally like a vacation when he's back. Like I don't want to work. I don't want to have to get anything done. I don't want him to work. I just want to like pretend that we're on a staycation, and I want to just relax, and I want us to go to coffee shops, and I want us to just prance around the city, and then we go get dinner, and then we watch TV, and it's like no responsibility. I don't want any responsibility when he's back. And I don't know if that's mentally a good thing. I just think that's where I'm at, though.
What do you think, honey?
Well, I think it's your turn. What do you think?
That's our vibe too. It's okay to focus and prioritize on reconnecting when you're back in town. There's definitely a balance, because being on the road is a weird kind of thing, because you are working, but you aren't necessarily working on like the things that are really like, it's kind of like life stops a little bit when you're on the road. So when I get back in town, I want to like get my life back in order. And like a way for me to do that is to like force fit the routine back. So like if I get back on a Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 6 a.m., I'm trying to like get like right back into it.
Yeah.
So it's like a balance between getting back in the routine, but also taking time to prioritize reconnecting, because that is the main priority is reconnecting. So yeah, Kelly definitely wants to like get up at 8, 9 o'clock and then like lay around until 10, 11 o'clock. and then walk to coffee shops and hang and do all that. And I try to make time for that on like when I initially get back. But then I also try to leave. Well, actually, what's been helping us recently is like when she sees in the schedule that I'm thinking about her, then that kind of creates some space for the balance to happen, as opposed to just like willy nilly doing whatever you feel that day.
Can you expand on like making space in your calendar kind of thing? Like, what does that actually look like?
Like putting in the calendar, like in our phone calendar, iCal. Like if I can put workout with Kelly at 6:30, and then 8 o'clock coffee and reading and prayer time with Kelly, and then 10 to 12 or whatever, my own personal kind of like practice study time or whatever, and then 12 to 2 lunch with Kelly. Like if she sees stuff with Kelly
Then I feel
uh
really excited.
in the calendar, no matter if it's in my head to do anyway, if she sees it, that's what creates some like excitement, uh
Yep.
uh and makes her feel more important than feeling excited, feeling prioritized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan did a thing where he would put in Jordan Laura kiss in our calendar, which just means like spend time and hang out.
Sometimes we kiss. Sometimes we kiss a lot.
And sometimes we don't at all, and we just sit next to each other. But it's like that time in the calendar that makes me feel good. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel that.
What was the question?
What is the hardest thing about being a part that no one talks about? If you don't have an
That
answer,
no
we
one
can move
talks
on.
about?
But
I think it's tough with the times, because like kind of like what you guys said, when I'm here, like I'm going to the gym, I'm doing this, and then when I go on the road, my schedule's flipped. My day doesn't start till 3 p.m.
right.
So where I'm like sitting around kind of doing nothing, you're working. So we don't really have the time to talk. And then when my day's just getting started, she's off work, and it's like, well, if she had a shitty day, I don't have time to talk about it. She's a verbal processor, so then she has to wait to talk about it till sometimes we have, if we play at 10, we're not done till 11:45 midnight, and then she doesn't want to talk about it at midnight. Then I have to wait, and it's like I don't really get to talk to her that day. That's tough, is like, because when I'm here, we're kind of on the same schedule, but when I'm gone, it's just automatically flipped, and you kind of forget about it. That's tough.
And that, like, I'm a verbal processor, and I know a lot of people who are listening might be as well, but what I can't deal with is not having enough time in the phone call when he's gone to actually get into it, because I need time to verbally process. So if I know I only have 10, 15, 30 minutes, that's not enough. Or I feel like it's a time limit, so it stresses me out. I don't know if this is relatable or not, or maybe I'm just a psycho.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then I just don't even want to like call. I don't want to even start the verbal processing, because it's like, then I'll get frustrated that I can't actually finish the verbal processing. So then and these are kind of questions that we'll get into later, and I might be answering it early, but something that I find has worked for us is, if I really need to process something, he'll make the time. We'll figure it out. But if it's one of those things that I would like to verbally process, but it's not a necessity, or I can like let it cook for a couple days, then I just won't talk. Like I'm like, don't talk to me. I actually don't want to have any kind of connection besides texting, because if I open up that like phone call door, I'm going to want to talk about it. But if I don't have time to talk about it, it's not going to be helpful.
Yeah. You have to, I had to learn how to let things go, because you want them to talk to you about it. But then by the time I get to talk to her about it, she's like, I'm over it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. But then you feel like you missed out on something that you could have been there to help her with. So I don't know. It does get tough, but you work it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Right? Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Have you ever felt like your relationship was running on autopilot while one of you was on the road or at home? And how did you handle it if you felt like you're on autopilot?
From the person who's on the road perspective, it's easy to get on autopilot in the relationship because you're on the road, and like my in the role that I'm usually in on the road, it does require me to like be up early with the techs and stage crew and stuff, and getting in there and just kind of being involved, because I'm in a lot of what I do. I'm kind of like the team builder and the team connector, and like making sure everybody's cool. So a lot of my energy is 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 going towards that, since I'm with these people 24 hours a day. And so it's easy to get on autopilot. And then I hear about it. Thankfully, I hear about it from Kelly, and the way out of it varies sometimes. Sometimes it's FaceTiming more. Sometimes it's writing letters and journals to each other, because like they're on the road, there's a whole lot of hurry up and wait. And isn't helpful, especially what you just expressed as far as like being on the phone 5 minutes and then being like, hey baby, I gotta go. Like a sound check may be at 1 o'clock, and it may not start until 3 o'clock, which a normal person would think, oh, that's 2 hours of free time. But like really that's like 2 hours of standing in the room on the side of the stage, like kind of being on call to walk in there at any moment's notice. And so, that space is a lot different space than like 2 hours of free time.
Yeah.
And so, but what I can do during that time is text or write a letter or write a journal, because I can get going, and then if I need to go out to stage, I can just close the laptop and go out to the stage and finish it later. But then at least she's like hearing what's going on in my head. For Kelly, at least she just likes to hear what's going on in my head and knowing what I'm thinking about. So it could be journaling, it could be FaceTiming, it could be like prioritizing some time talking more, like depending on the time zone. There is a pretty Jordan's right. A lot of the time the day doesn't start until 10 a.m. So it may suck on my behalf, but like making some time at 9 a.m. when I know nothing is going to be going on. So yeah, just, it varies from situation to situation what the solution is, but the solution is always communication and figuring out what the solution is.
So we just got back in town, and I got to go for like a whole week and a half.
Nice.
But we were in the Bahamas, and then we were in Miami, and I got to like witness him being in these roles, starting from like the time that he woke up until the time that he came back, and like, we went to sleep. And so, I'm there. Of course, I want all the attention, but it's just like not possible. So one thing that he did that I really appreciate was communicate. It's like, hey, I am texting with the crew. Hey, I am texting with the band. Hey, the artist just texted me. Hey, we're sitting in the room together. And I'm like, we're not talking. And he's like, I'm creating a set list for this event that's in like 2 hours. And we don't have a set list. And so they need the set list before we get on the stage. And so it was cool to see like the start to finish, because after all this time, I haven't seen that really.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see it, but it's also really appreciated that he communicated that was happening. So I didn't feel ignored. So thank you.
Yeah, it seems like you really, Nick, you were able to squash any like wonderings in Kelly's mind of like, hello, I'm here. It's like you almost didn't even let that happen in Kelly's mind. She was just like, oh, okay, I get it. Because you're, Kelly, a very understanding person. He's got to get work done. He's there for work. But that's a great tip, Kelly, to share. Thank you.
And I need to make sure that I communicate that I appreciate it. Because I think I feel it, but I don't know if I actually said it until this moment. So,
And I think that is something, at least the partners at home, we probably don't communicate well enough because we're the ones that have to deal with all of what you're dealing with. So it's like we're just processing what you're telling us. So we're probably not also thinking, oh, and thank you so much for communicating that. And like that's probably not handed backwards as often as it should. So thank you guys so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Seriously.
Thanks.
Let's move forward. Okay, this is the last question. This little like realities of distance and disconnection. What's a moment on tour or at home where you realized your communication was totally off? Is there a story you can remember? Is there a time that sticks out to you where it was totally off? And then how did you fix it?
I mean, there's, what I just said just then, that happened 12 and a half years into marriage. So we got 12 years of, let me count the ways. Is there a specific one that comes to your mind?
Not specifically, but I mean, when it's off, and it's whether we like actually say it's off because we know each other so well that there's like an energy situation where it's like a wall. And it doesn't have to be like, tour related. It could be, something happened here where I had like an awful day of all these things happening, but he's in another country and we haven't been able to talk about it. Or that he's been in, 4 different countries in like 4 days. And then he hops on a plane and then, the house is falling apart here. And so I pick him up from the airport and he's like, hey. And I'm like, hello. And then he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, what happened? But he's exhausted because he hasn't slept. And then I feel bad, but also like you said earlier, it's like, they want to hear from us. You want to hear everything, but also it's like there's like a balance, like you said, a balance of just all the shit. It's such a balance.
Yeah.
I didn't know we could curse. Everybody cursing.
Oh yeah.
You keep it out.
I'm not going to bleep it out.
Okay.
But something that I think is important to talk about in this question is that there was a time, actually not too long ago, that I guess, Kelly, you said it really well, kind of like an energy, like the energy was off. And this wasn't even when he was on the road. Jordan came back home. And I think that's where a lot of, I wouldn't say problems, we don't really have a lot of problems, but that's like where a lot of friction happens, is at least for us, is when we're actually both back in the same household. Because I think it's easy to manage ourselves when we're apart. So when we come back together, that's when we can talk through things, and that's when the energy is going to mess up a little bit against each other. And so he came home and I was expecting, like, when you've been married for a while and there are times you're like, I just want to feel pursued. I want to feel like I'm being dated a little, like sometimes you just want that. And we both didn't know it because we hadn't communicated it yet, but we felt this friction because I wanted that from him. And at the same exact time, he wanted that from me, but we both didn't know it from each other. So we were both expecting each other to kind of step up and do some acts of service for each other and like love on each other a little bit more than we were, because I was sitting back waiting for him to do it, but he was doing the same waiting for me to do it. And so then we were kind of getting mad at each other because we both weren't feeling loved, even though we both were just waiting for the love in a certain kind of way. And it wasn't until we like had to sit down and kind of stop everything and be like, what is going on? Why are we angry with each other? We're clearly in love. What is this about? And it took like an hour conversation for us to finally figure out, like, oh, we both want
Yeah,
this.
we talked about it, and it was literally like, well, I feel unwanted. She's like, I feel unwanted. And we both like, damn. Okay, now let's fix it. Like,
Yeah.
it was just
Like once we figured it out, it wasn't an issue anymore, but we had to figure out what the issue was. And then we were like, oh, okay. We kind of felt like these two little teenagers that were just like waiting for each other to help one another out. And then it got fixed pretty easy. But I feel like that's where a lot of tension happens, is when he comes home and then either I was in a, not even a bad mood, like I just needed something and he didn't know what that was. And then he actually needs something too when he comes home. He can't just like love on me because that's his job because he was the one that was gone. Like, I have to be able to love on him the way he needs it too, but we just didn't know how we both needed it at the time. And I think that's fairly normal. It's not just us. They need love too. Surprise. Okay, let's talk about navigating different worlds because sometimes it feels like we're living in different worlds.
Oh, yeah.
But I know that you guys do a good job in trying to bring us into your world while you're gone. But at times it really does feel very different. So, how do you balance keeping each other updated without overwhelming or underwhelming the other person?
I give her access to Master Tour. She has my login. So as far as like scheduling, she's never like, "What are you doing? You got 5 minutes? I need to ask you about something." Like she can just go and be like, "Oh, he's in the middle of sound check.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write this down for later." Or, "Oh, he's doing this." Or like, "Oh, you know what? He may have a 2 hour block here. I'll text him then and figure it out." That way I'm not like calling things in sound check and then texting like, "Hey, I'm in sound check. I'm trying to figure this out." Like that helps out. I feel like a lot of communication wise of like, this is my schedule for the day. Let's fill the time in between if possible. Or if things change, she already knows, so she doesn't have to worry about reaching out to me and trying to get on the same page.
Yeah. That's a good
That's
one.
the best thing ever. I love Master Tour. I'm so grateful for it. Thank you for also giving me access to Master Tour. Because there's times where this past run, it was like he was like, "What time is sound check?" And I'm like, "Sound check is at 3 o'clock."
DM Kelly.
I know, Kelly, doesn't it feel like sometimes you're the one that like manages the schedule when you're not at all because you just have access to it?
That's the best. I'm so grateful for that. So I don't feel overwhelmed by that. I wonder, because my schedule isn't super crazy. So I wonder if like maybe I could do better about adding the things that I have going on into our joint calendar. Because he does all his stuff in the joint calendar, but I could do better about my things on our joint calendar too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's underwhelming, but probably.
Are you asking what the
Yeah,
question
what's the
was?
question again?
How do you balance keeping each other updated without overwhelming or underwhelming the other person?
Yeah, I think it's just like Nick was doing with Kelly, even in the room, being intentional. Because last thing you want is to under communicate it, like how your day was, or you didn't have anything, and you're like, "Well, you haven't talked to me all day." It's like, "Well, I've been busy." Well, you didn't say you've been busy. Like, how am I supposed to know?
Yes.
Yeah, the calendar, the master tour, all that I feel like is the best for that because all the information is there, and then it's like now the person that's home or like not with you has the power themselves to be underwhelmed or overwhelmed. Like if you're overwhelmed, just don't look at it. If you're underwhelmed and you want to know what's going on, go and look at it. Like
Yeah.
but there is like, there's that, but then there's also again just communicating about what works for each other because like in the first like 5 years or so of me like being on the road and all that, like Kelly hated it when I FaceTimed her because she felt like that it was like the most negative connotation of FOMO that you can think of. That's what it was for her. And especially if we're like when we first moved to LA and I'm going back to Texas and she's seeing like Texas people and I'm FaceTime and I'm thinking like, "Oh, Kelly would love to see you. Hey, honey." And
Yes.
she's like, I don't want to see what's going on because I got FOMO right now.
Mm.
And so yeah, like me being just in tune with what speaks to her while I'm out. And then like now, like it's like a thing. Like everybody that I'm on the road with, like they know who Kelly are. They know who Kelly is. And they'll be like, "Hey bro, FaceTime Kelly real quick."
Oh,
And like she like loves it now.
yeah.
She feels like she feels like part of the crew, part of the band. And I think what really grew her into not feeling like the FOMO vibes is just uh years of me trying to be intentional about prioritizing her. Because like once you my pastor Eric down in Texas, when we first got married, and he knew I wanted to do music and stuff full time. Or I mean, not even that, because when we first got married, I was in the corporate world. I was doing both, actually. I was doing a little bit of everything. But he knew that I worked hard, and I was like laser focused in tunnel vision on work. And one of the lessons that he told me was just do whatever you need to do to make your wife feel like she's priority. And like that means different things in different seasons. It may be phone calls, it may be FaceTimes, it may be journals, it may be sending postcards, it may be sending flowers. Like that could be a myriad of things. I have a note in my phone called Kelly Prioritization, and it's just a list of stuff that's like worked over the years. And when I feel like something needs to happen, I just go to the list, and I'll ask and talk and try to get clues on like what she's feeling in the moment. Yeah, I think years of me doing that like led us to the space to where now she doesn't feel the FOMO because she knows she's like being thought about, and she knows it's coming from a place of me just trying to include her into my different world on the road. So yeah, it took years of being intentional about the prioritization of Kelly.
I think
That
there's
was, oh, go ahead, Kelly. Sorry, please.
I think there's like a picture that they took with a band picture, and they FaceTimed me, and Nick is like holding the phone. So I'm like in the band picture from here.
That's awesome.
That's so sweet. That was literally like, Nick, you just answered my next question about this, like navigating different worlds, is like, how do you deal with feeling like your spouse is having more fun than you? And that can go both ways. Like maybe they feel like we're having more fun because we're doing something at home. Like maybe you guys are just doing the hurry up and wait, and it's not a good day, and it's not a good show day, and like whatever. And then we're hanging out with so and so playing ladder ball in the backyard, and you're like, all I wanted to do was be playing cornhole or something, like whatever could be more fun than what you're doing. And I think the FOMO can go both ways. And Nick, it sounds like you've got a really good system on how to make Kelly not feel FOMO from your point of view. But Kelly, do you still feel FOMO from, let's say, other people in the camp, or like in Nick's camp, whatever they're posting on social media, or whatever you can end up seeing, or just maybe the location that they're at that you wish that you were at? Like, how do you, Kelly, deal with that on your own when Nick does everything in his power to make you not feel the FOMO, but you still feel it anyways?
Well, I don't think I handle it well at all. So, so maybe 2 summers ago, there was a call to go to Switzerland, and I could have sworn I was going to Switzerland. I was going. It was going to be great. I was going to, do the whole like running through the fields like they did on The Sound of Music. I was going. But then they got plane tickets on a Sunday and left on Wednesday. And so, yeah, does it make sense to go? Absolutely not. Because it's like, if we had found out maybe, a month or two ago, then we could plan for it. It would make more sense. But 3 days before, absolutely not, because the plane tickets will now double in price. And it's not like we can just walk to Switzerland real quick. We're on the West Coast, and we have to get there. It's going to be really expensive. So I may or may not have thrown a whole fit about that and mentioned it several times to not only Nick, and I apologize for that on camera in front of the world. I'm sorry.
It's okay, honey. It was an opportunity.
Nick, it was an opportunity for excellence, and I failed. I did, and I was really upset about it, and I was jealous. And instead of me handling it, me and Nick did go on vacation right after that. So I don't know. I do not handle it well a lot of the time, especially when it's places like that. Not that Switzerland is like a top 5, but it's definitely like, we're in LA, it's not my favorite place in the world. And then he gets to go to this beautiful place and there's the Alps and the lake or the water is right there that they just jump in and have a good time. And I'm like, here's LA. I can't see the mountains that are right there, because of all the things. And I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out a way to handle it better. And Laura and I have talked a million times about our mental state and how to regulate and what we can do on our end to make sure that we're in a better place. And so making sure that like my routine is really strong to where I'm not worried about it. And I know that the time will come where I'll get to go to Switzerland when we find out 2 days before. But maybe not. I don't know. We can go another time. It's not like I can't ever go. I just can't go when he's there and at this moment.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I'm working on becoming a better person.
Same. Because I find that like I don't get as much FOMO about locations as you do, Kelly. But I find the FOMO comes from other people, like other partners of people in his band posting on social media that they're there, like they actually are at the show, whatever show it is. And I'm like, all I want to do is be there hanging out with everybody, and I'm not. And so of course the natural like FOMO comes in and I'm like angry about it and I don't want to see them posting about it, but then I have to like, again, I don't feel like the best person in the world when I go through that mentally, because I feel like a bad person when I'm not. But then I have to like, I honestly feel like I have to channel, like, I think of the best person I know in my life. Like, who is that person?
Is that me?
Yes. And I'm like, I know how they would react to this, and they would truly just be like over that everyone is having such a great time together, even though they're not there. And I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. So I'm like, if they can be so thrilled that literally everyone is hanging out, having the best time, and they're not there, then I can also do that. And so I try to put myself in that mindset, and it actually works. I don't know how, but it does. And then I have to get off of social media. I can't be susceptible to it anymore, but that's kind of my burden to bear.
It does help. I do. I mean, like what Kelly said, if I know there's something that you want to go to or you can't, or you find out like, damn, I didn't know all these people were going to be there. When we plan something later, you're like, all right, well, I'm going to this one. It does help a lot.
Yeah.
Or we'll go do something else after fact. Be like, sucks I wasn't there, but at least we're going to do blank in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. That helps a lot.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
It's also helped over the years, like being on the lookout for the stuff that she can come to, because I think it helps in their understanding that it is work, and you get off stage at 11, and then you got bus call at 1, and then it's a 3-hour drive to the next city, and then you wake up pretty abruptly on the bus at 4 because it's like in the city. So like, hey, everybody gotta get off the bus in 10 minutes. So like, you're in tour mode. You can get up, still be asleep, but just kind of throw yourself in the bag, go check in, go upstairs and do whatever. But for somebody who's not like in that mode, like that's rough. And so like, I think Kelly she's becoming less and less prone to the FOMO with each new gig that she comes to, because she's like, oh, this is work. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
There was a time where I got to ride the tour bus from Dallas to Austin. And we've made that. We used to live in Austin, we're from Dallas, make that drive all the time. But I don't know what I thought, but we got on that bus and Nick showed me his little bunk and I got in there and I got all cozy and I was sleeping so well. And then I feel like, and I'm like, what? And he was like, we got to get off the bus. And it is 3:00 in the morning. And so we get off the bus and I'm looking around like, where are we? What is happening? And then we get up to the room and now I'm wide awake. And I used to really complain about, you need to let me know when you make it because I need to know that you're alive and all the things. Now I don't worry about that. I have his location and know where he's at. You do not have to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning because I've experienced that myself. And that is not okay for an outsider.
So funny.
I feel like we need to have like every spouse and partner tour with their spouse one time
Just
so that they can understand it all. And then I feel like a lot of the miscommunication will just disintegrate because they'll understand.
A little bring your spouse to work day.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, let's talk about intentional connection. So, what is a small but meaningful way you stay emotionally connected even when time zones, schedules, and exhaustion make it hard?
What you got?
I'll say it one more time. What's a small but meaningful way you can stay emotionally connected even when time zones, schedules, and exhaustion make it hard?
I mean, I got it easy in this department. Kelly just again basically just wants to know that she's being thought about. So like just sending like a sweet text to let her know that I'm thinking about her is really kind of all it takes for Kelly. Most times, sometimes it's there's a bit more of a challenge due to just whatever's going on. This might be what's going on in her life, and she may need a little more than that. But most of the time, if it's just kind of a regular emotional state, just like little text to let her know, or a postcard, or just something unexpected. But what Kelly likes to see, like written, like me like writing something or her receiving something that's written, whether if it's text, email, postcard, or whatever, is what I found works for Kelly.
I love those postcards.
Are you actually write out the postcard and you send it, or do you hold on to it and give it to her when you like come back?
I'll send it.
Okay, so she doesn't know that, and then all of a sudden she checks the mail, and
That's so cute.
that's cool.
And I save them.
As you should. Yep.
That's nice. Do you ever wake up and you're mad at him, and then you get one, and you're like, "Damn, you wrote me one."
Yes. Yes, actually.
I find what works really well for us is he knows my love languages, and my love language, my top one is acts of service. So when he's gone, my love language is still going to be acts of service. So how can he do that while he's gone? And an example of that was like our heat went out, which I talked about on the last podcast episode because it was about finances and we had to drop all this money. And I had to make a really quick decision on whether or not to drop all the money for one reason or another. And he was the one to call this heating company, and he put in effort so it didn't just make me feel like I was doing it all on my own. And that's the way he knew I needed to be loved. And so that just kept the emotional connection really strong, because otherwise I just hate feeling like I'm on my own and I'm like living my own single life while having to maintain this connection. So for him to be able to do kind of this mundane housekeeping thing while he's gone meant everything to me.
Oh yeah, it went out. I was on the way to the airport, like to go.
It was snowing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something.
It was like
yeah.
5 degrees.
Yeah.
It was one of those like, I'm getting on a plane, but I know that it would mean a lot to her for me to take care of this right now.
So maybe just like knowing your love languages and then just doing what you can. And Kelly, it seems like your love language is words of affirmation.
One of three. They're literally tied for
Nice.
3.
Yeah, because it seems like, Nick, you're nailing that words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation, quality time, and physical touch are like top 3. And he's so good at like whenever, like before he leaves, like overloading on the things that are physically impossible when he's away. Yeah. So like physical touch and the quality time are like top tier. And then he leaves. So I'm like, it's like an overflow. It's wonderful.
And you feel it sustains you when he's gone.
I do. Now, if it's like, 6 months, that's a little different. But even then, like, I'll be able to like go out every once in a while.
Yeah.
Which is also, that's wonderful.
Okay, let's keep moving on. So coming home and readjusting, which we touched on a little, but this is such a big, big thing in our world that I think it's important to kind of break it down. This is more of a question for Nick and Jordan. What's the hardest part about transitioning from tour mode to home mode in regards to maintaining a healthy connection with your partners?
Go ahead, you got something.
Yeah. I'm an Enneagram 8, so I'm very straightforward, and then I'm on a bus full of dudes. So I have learned over the years. Laura is a 4, and she needs to hear things a certain way, which is great. But I've built up like a handful of layers in my head from what I think to what I actually say when it comes to Laura, so that way she doesn't. Because if I were to say it so matter of fact, like I normally would, then it could come off like a total asshole, and it wouldn't mean to be that way. So, when you spend 3 weeks on the road with the guys, and then everything's just kind of like a shot at one another, but in a funny way, or just so straightforward, then I get home and it takes me a couple days to like, not that I make fun of you, but like everything's just so matter of fact. And sometimes there's a joke at your expense, but it's like totally playful. But she doesn't do those. So
Well,
she's like, what the hell?
I can, but only if I'm like really in that mood, but I'm not always in that mood. So it's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Yeah. So this is readjusting, kind of like not being nasty, because, being around a bunch of guys, but just like truly like putting the filter back on and talking to her how I know she needs to be talked to. And then just
AKA going from him not needing to be nurturing on the road to now needing to be nurturing when he's back. That is a major adjustment that we have gone through many a times, that he has learned that he needs to kind of turn on when he gets back.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what's funny? Sorry to interrupt before you get started. Whenever we found out about this Enneagram thing, it was like we did the little thing. I don't even know if you remember, but we did it and then we moved on. But I was a 4 and he was an 8.
Yeah, I remember doing it. I don't remember anything.
That's it. This is like a mirror. That's what's happening. I'm watching us.
That specific thing with us is like, that's like a daily thing for me. It's not even on the road or not. Like, that's just, I was an asshole like before Kelly, and like
Same.
through Kelly, I've just learned how to put on that nurturing filter for most people. Period. It's like that isn't a thing. Well, no, it is a thing. It's just a daily thing.
Yeah.
But kind of what I mentioned earlier about the like me, I'm an all or nothing type person. So once I get back from the road, I'm like, I want to go and get back into the daily routine schedule right away. And so the biggest challenge is like slowing down and making sure that I'm prioritizing some, like filling the love tanks back up.
Yeah.
And then also, like, when you're on the road, you tend to with per diem and all that kind of stuff, you tend to be a little more lenient on like the eating out and all that kind of stuff. And like, eating out is something that we like connected on earlier on in our relationship. So if we're not intentional about not doing it, like, we'll eat out just because like the vibes are good for the day. And it's like, hey, let's go down the street, get some chips and salsa, and so like part of us getting back, a part of us connecting is that. So like another challenge is being more intentional in that area and not being in tour spending mode.
Yeah.
Like, we get back for the next week and a half, because then you spend a few $100s over budget eating out for the sake of connecting when really you just kind of falling back into not great habits.
Yeah.
That's very real. That's like what we deal with too. And I think maybe a lot of people that are like us, like just that little going out to eat thing, because you guys are always so used to doing that. Like he comes home, he's like, all right, Taco Bell?
Let's go do something.
Like,
Yeah.
so I'll say yes. And then I'm like, okay,
I eat Taco Bell like once every few years to remind myself why I don't eat Taco Bell.
Bro, it's for her. I'm not even like, I love Taco Bell. It's like, I know you love Taco Bell, so let's go get you some Taco Bell.
I feel you. With Kelly, it's McDonald's.
You just gonna call me out and tell the people
McDonald's?
those fries are so good. They're so
I
good.
do have a guy on the road who every meal we'll be like, hey, we're going to the steakhouse. He'll be like, I am just gonna grab some McDonald's. And you're like, he's like, it's consistent. I love it.
It's just consistently awful for your entire body, but they're so good. The fries.
For your body, McDonald's might want to sponsor this thing.
Never mind. We love McDonald's.
Hey, Ronald, we love you.
right. Taco Bell, we love you. My mom only ate Taco Bell when I was in her womb, so that's why I think I love it so much.
That'll do it, right?
It just naturally made me. So
yeah. My mom was a meth addict.
Turned out great. Thanks, Taco Bell.
Yeah.
It's Taco Bell. Okay, let's get to the end of this and talk about advice and lessons learned. What is something you wish you knew about communication in a touring relationship when you first started this lifestyle? Like if you could give one piece of advice to your old self in regards to connecting with your spouse with this touring lifestyle, what would it be?
Being more vulnerable in communication about the day-to-day, which is something I'm still learning how to do 12 plus years later. Because there is a lot that goes on in the day, but to us it's just like a day. So when you talk about it, hey honey, what happened today? Oh, just a normal day. Like, no, go back to second grade and do a whole narrative about like some detail about the whole day. Well, I woke up and the drummer said this and then made a joke about this and made it. And to me, like, I'm not a talker, so all that in my nature feels like overkill. And like, you want to know about this and
yeah,
and all that. That's a tool that helps both of us, because for her it gives her more, narrative and like the emotional need of conversation, and then for me, it's something to talk about that gives her that. So being more, and I think that's, and again I said the word vulnerable because it is just being more vulnerable about what went on in the details of the day. So just being more vulnerable in the details of the day in communication.
Nick, you got me doing the church sermon nudge. Wait, what? You're like,
that's my mom.
Don't look left, don't look right.
Yeah, so true.
Oh, I would say in the beginning, I took everything as gospel, so it was like, hey, I think we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And then I'd come home and tell Laura, hey, we might be doing this, this, and this, and this. And then Laura would get so excited and I would get excited, or like, hey, possible raise coming soon. And then nothing ever happens. And then we're both like pissed off at nothing. But that is like, that situation happens 5 times a week and always changes. And there's so many things of like, I would say go back and like, if it's a maybe, it's definitely a maybe. Like, don't put any more stock into, oh, this could happen. It's like, well, if it happens, cool. And then if it does happen, awesome. But like, I put so much stock into, hey, we got offered this tour. We might do this. We might go do this. We might go do this. And I'm like, pack your bags. We're possibly going here. And then we're not. We're going to Memphis, Tennessee. And then she's like, awesome. Great.
Great. I thought you were going to Brazil and now you're not. Great.
Yeah. So I would say everything, and this is constant. I remember you telling me that when we were dealing with this, you would talk to Kelly about it and you were like, well, nothing is consistent and like everything is constantly changing and it doesn't get to a point where everything is 100% constant all the time. And I remember you saying that like Kelly had told you that in the beginning and you were like, I'm just so glad to know. Like, I'm glad, not that I don't need for it to be consistent, but to know that it's not going to be consistent, even that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tell myself that in the beginning, especially for us, so I can stop. I'm kind of the opposite, Nick, in the sense of I don't want to tell you every detail. Like, I know you, and she probably didn't even want to hear every detail, because I'll get myself in trouble of like over communicating things, and then when they don't happen, she's let down.
Oh, I
Yeah.
mean, in that regard, we're even before it gets to Kelly. For myself, I usually don't even consider something happening unless there's a plane ticket in my email account. Like until it gets to
Absolutely.
a moment. Like I rarely actually ever tell Kelly unless it's like just kind of a general, hey, I may be doing a tour from September to November, but like
Yeah.
that's about it. I don't like she can get the dates once the master tour comes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. Okay. Have you developed any rules or boundaries that have helped make your communication stronger?
Probably. But
Like,
even like, having this conversation with the four of us is reminding me to communicate all the like things that I'm grateful for with this lifestyle and this life that we live. So making sure that I'm like, while I'm telling, Laura, I'm telling you all these things that I'm excited about. Yes, I'm telling my friends and people that I trust with my life that I'm communicating these little bits of this life with, making sure that I'm also telling Nick those things. Like we talked about all the financial stuff, and I know that's really important, but I need to tell that to this guy.
yeah,
that
that's
yeah, like,
so cool.
yeah.
I love that you brought that up because I deal with that too, and it makes me think that other partners at home are maybe dealing with the same thing, where a lot of them, if they have like their families close by or something, they're probably telling anyone other than the person that's gone all of these things that they're thinking about or going through or whatever, that they just naturally feel it get out of their system, so then they don't remember to tell the most important person.
Yes.
So that's really great to bring up and a great reminder, because I feel the same. I think I do that too. I
Oh,
think
you
that
Have you developed any rules?
Oh, yes, kind of. And this is sort of a rule that you can deal with not even in this touring lifestyle, but if you are too tired or it is 2 a.m., maybe you shouldn't be having serious conversations. Like you shouldn't be trying to iron out something that doesn't need to be ironed out at that time. Granted, life is life. There are times it needs to be, even though it's 3 a.m. I get it. But most of the time, it doesn't need to be ironed out via a phone call when you're upset because of something that might not even be from them. Like, there's a time and a place, and I feel like a lot of times we're too tired, even if it's 9 p.m. and we're on the phone, but I had the most exhausting day mentally, let's say. I probably shouldn't be talking about my day just because he called me because he had a free moment. Well, I'm not in the mental space. I'm too exhausted. So now I'm not going to give him my best. And then it creates more problems than anything. I like know when to not talk to him and be like, hey, I'm not going to answer your phone call right now. I'm not going to give you my best. Like, I just know it. So sorry. And it could disappoint him, but I think it is a safer thing to do, at
It's
least for
safer.
us. It's safer.
Yeah.
And then we'll just catch up later when I'm not dying from mental exhaustion and frustration or whatever it is.
Yes. 2 a.m. and directly before the show.
That's the worst time.
Never.
Worst time of all time. Yeah.
Never
Um,
before the show.
my rule would be kind of what we talked on in the beginning would be the prioritize, especially in the calendar, because as you get excited and you put things in the calendar, we have the joint calendar, there's master tour, and then there's the joint. We have a joint one too. You get excited about all these things you're going to do. And then she's left being like, what about me? What about me? Are you excited about spending time with me? Cause it's not anywhere in here. So kind of the rule I have for myself, because we've dealt with this a handful of times, is I'm looking at Master Tour. I know I got a busy 4 weeks. So I'm going to go in right now. And before I plan any back burner stuff for my business or anything else with church or anything else, like I'm putting Laura Jordan time. So that way before Master Tour, it is what it is. It's my job. But before anything else, Laura gets these nights.
And I think that it's important for the partner at home to do the same thing and put the same effort in like the calendar, for example, because it's not just his job. which I think a lot of times it can feel like we put that on him. It's his job. He's the one that's gone. He's the one that's having fun. He's the one that whatever, like he needs to prioritize my schedule because his schedule runs my life. But it's my job too to make him feel prioritized and loved and just putting in freaking effort. So yeah, I have to do that too and remind myself. And it's not always easy. Sometimes I feel like this, I was gonna say like this princess, but I was gonna say pretty princess, like that little game. I don't know if you ever played.
I do.
That just came to my mind. And I don't want to just sit here and feel like this little princess in a castle when I'm not that. And I feel like it's really easy to put myself in that position, and that's really not a healthy position to put yourself in. So
Yeah, I stay in that castle. I got to get out of there.
same. It's easy to put yourself in the castle when you feel like they're living this really cool life and you're living a great life but you just like want to be with them, but you can't all the time. So then you envy it sometimes. And so then, yeah, you put yourself in that like castle point of view and you're like, well, then I'm just going to wait until they make my life better because they're making my life worse right now, which is not true, but sometimes it feels like that.
One of our friends was like, listen, and she called me out so hard. And I was like, oh, I need to apologize. And I remind myself of that moment every once in a while. It's like, she's not related to music whatsoever, but she like runs a business. She's really busy all the time. And her boyfriend's the same way. As far as like you don't spend any time with me, all the things. And I'm like, oh, yep, that's me. And she's like, no, it's not that. It is that all of these things are happening. And I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I didn't.
Basically, that sometimes like I don't have to be complaining about all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really.
Sometimes you don't have to complain about.
Okay. Humble. I'm being humble.
But somebody did tell me recently that complaining is literally the opposite of gratefulness. So like remembering that, and that's why people always talk about trying to insert gratefulness in your life, because it's like really hard to do those things at the same time, to be grateful and to complain.
Yeah.
So just being intentional about showing gratefulness and accepting gratefulness and all that is very important. So thank you for that reminder, honey.
Thank you for that reminder, because that's, I think, a great place to leave this podcast, is just remembering to be grateful. This is a wonderful life, and we've got great partners to live it with and great friends to share the life with, and we wouldn't want it any other way.
Oh,
nope. So on that, we're going to have to go put in our calendars, Nick and Kelly kiss, Jordan, Laura kiss.
I'll probably label it something else.
yes, you should.
Yeah. I just don't feel comfortable putting Nick and Kelly kiss in my calendar.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
On this note, we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for being here, Nick and Jordan, and we'll have you guys on our show again. But until then,
I don't know.
okay. Bye,
Nick.
everybody.
Bye, Kelly.